Hey, what's up everyone? Mendel here. I hope you're all doing awesome and wonderful. So in this video, I'm going to show you 5 tips to make your metal demo sound better. So as always, let's dig right in. Here we go. Alright, so tip number 1 is rebalancing / remixing. So I've personally had so many times when my song was done and I just couldn't get it sound right. I was like tweaking the EQs more and kind of stuff because I was putting them on while I was like writing the song. And then when I was finished, couldn't get it sounding right. And the solution was a lot of the times just removing all the plugins and basically start from scratch, and that gave me like a fresh perspective a lot of times. Alright, so let me demonstrate. So I actually like this mix. Let's take a listen, but just for demonstration purposes I'm going to use this mix to show like the whole rebalancing thing. So we have this riff here, cool song. Okay, so you get the idea, heavy metal song. I really like this mix, but for demonstration purposes, if I would not like this and I would have been tweaking EQs and everything, I would just start from scratch. So what I would do is press Ctrl-Shift-S and then save it under a different version name, version 5 million something. And then basically select all the tracks where I'm going to remove the plugins. Press Q-Link, remove everything. And then basically put all the faders down. And then start my rebalance. Now one cool tip you could do actually is before you go mixing or before you start writing your demo and you already have your tracks, you could make a snapshot. And you can also do that with the mix if you want, so you can recall it back. And rebalancing for me would always be the same. I would start with my kick drum and aim for it at like 0 decibels. Then the snare, then the overheads. Let me just loop this section. Then bring in the overheads. And then the rest of the kit, and then I would bring in the bass, then the guitars. So that's a fair balance, and honestly every time I did this it gave me a whole fresh perspective of the entire mix, and to be honest 90% of the time it would result into a better mix. Alright, so tip number 2 is master bus EQ and compression. Now if someone would ask me, hey dude, my demo has a balanced mix, it sounds pretty good, but I'm just missing something, I think I would instantly say try some master bus compression and some EQ on there. Now let me demonstrate here. So I have this mix. Now that already sounds pretty cool, if I may say so, but I'm just gonna do 2 things that will lift it up to a more professional level. So first some EQ. So you can see I took out this frequency, it's on bypass now, but let me show you what I did. So I'm just gonna play it. Do you hear that really harsh frequency. Now in your mix or in your demo, when you have those metal guitars and perhaps a clangy bass and the cymbals of the overheads, all of that will build up and it could like result in some nasty frequencies for the human ear. And by taking that out, it will solve a lot. There's another tiny one. So taking out just those frequencies will solve a lot. And also in most rock metal mixes, the lower mids can be a bit like honky or cluttering up the mix. So let's use dynamic EQ there. Just a tiny bit, just to keep it in check. And then after that, it's up to you what you prefer, if you want to first do compression or EQ. But on this mix, I like to have the compressor after the EQ. And just a tiny bit of gain reduction. I'm aiming about 3 to a maximum 4 decibels. Now my settings are 30 millisecond attack, a 4:1 ratio, fastest possible release. And this one's very important. I have it on peak fully because on RMS it was kind of pumping a bit too much. And some makeup gain, but let's put it on 0 now and let's see what it does. Now that to me is like the game changer, because it ducks the snare a tiny bit, it glues the mix a bit. That's a typical term, but seriously it does that. It glues the mix a bit more together. So this is without, and watch what happens when I put it on. That's to my ears night and day. Like nasty frequencies are gone. The whole mix is more like tucked in together, which I really like the sound of. Game changer. So make sure you check it out on your demos. Some master bus EQ, not too much, depends on the mix, but most of the time not too much, and some bus compression. All right, so tip number 3, always record a DI. Especially in the metal context. I can't even tell you how many demos I couldn't save with mixing because I had a really bad guitar tone. Because as we all know, in metal, the guitar tone is such a big foundation of the entire mix. So make sure you always record the DI. If you take your guitar cable and plug it straight into the high Z input of your interface, that's fully fine. Just make sure you do that. Make sure the levels aren't right. So what I always do, I do my hardest palm mutes. And if my hardest palm mutes don't clip and have like around 3 or 5 decibels of headroom, that's right there in the pocket. And that way I can always make sure when I'm done recording and I'm like trying to mix my demo and it's a bad guitar tone, I can always reamp it. All right, now tip number 4 is low end. Now for me, the giveaway to a not professional sounding demo or mix is when it's lacking low end, when you not have that big 50 hertz bump low end, like pumping your chest. That's for me a dead giveaway, and here's a great tip to solve that. Okay, so over here I have the EQ for my kick drum, and the EQ for my bass guitar. So this is the mix without EQ on kick and bass. Now it's lacking low end, and one thing I always do before this is listen to some reference track so I can get the feel of where the low end should be. But to show some EQ moves, what I like to do on my kick drum for an example, I'm just boosting a ton of 50 Hertz. So you have to make sure frequency wise where your bass guitar be and your kick drum, but in my mixes I like my kick drum around 50-60 Hertz and bass guitar 70 up to 100. So to demonstrate, okay, so for the kick drum, it's sitting where I like it. And as you can see, I boosted almost 8 decibels around 50 Hertz. So now I'm gonna boost the bass guitar. Alright, so I like where this is sitting. Let's do a side-by-side comparison. So the difference is night and day in my opinion, and I'm not surprised because low end carries so much energy. It's so important to a mix. So if your mix sounds kind of thin, make sure you recheck your low end. Alright, and then lastly, but perhaps the most important one, tip number 5, a good song equals a good mix. I can tell from experience that a lot of times when I was like, for an example, done with the demo and tried to mix it, I just couldn't get the mix right, and that was either the song arrangement wasn't good. For an example, when the chorus hit, I could try my mixing skills and everything, but the chorus wasn't just hitting, and just by adding some octaves or something, depends on the genre and the style, but in metal context, I like to add octaves and that kind of part to like support the chord progression, lifted up the whole mix. Or for an example, before the chorus hit, I would remove instruments, like remove clean playing stuff or remove a drum kit or bass guitar so that when the chorus hits, it has like a big impact. And that made my whole demo sound better. Not a mixing trick, but more like a songwriting arrangement trick. I personally think this is a subject that's really overseen a lot. Like people spend tons of money on plugins and tons of money on gear, trying to make better sounding mixes, better sounding demo, while actually the source of a better sounding demo is not the gear, but it's you, yourself. So honestly, instead of spending a ton of money on plugins or a ton of money on gear, instead of spending money, try to invest time into becoming a better songwriter. And I can honestly tell you that becoming a better songwriter will hugely improve your demos. So again, if you want a better sounding demo overall, don't forget about the songwriting because it all starts with the track itself. So alright, those are 5 tips to make your demos sound more professional. I really hope they help you out. Let me know in the comments what you think. And until then, see you next time. Cheers.